The sun shone brightly on the streets of London. Hundreds of people stood behind the barriers, waiting to see the royal family. Today was special. Prince William and Kate were coming to open a new children's hospital. Better still, they were bringing all three of their children with them. This was rare. The family did not often appear all together at public events. "When will they come?" a small girl asked her mother, standing on tiptoes to see over the crowd. "Soon," her mother said. "The royal family is always on time." The police moved up and down the street. They checked that everything was safe. Men in dark suits with earpieces talked into their wrists. These were the royal security team. They never took their eyes off the street and the buildings around them. A woman in the crowd checked her watch. "It's almost time," she said to her friend. The papers said they would arrive at 10 o'clock. Just then, a line of black cars turned the corner. The crowd let out a cheer. The first two cars were for security. The third car, bigger and shinier than the others, carried the royal family. It stopped right in front of the red carpet that led to the hospital doors. A man in a uniform rushed to open the car door. Prince William stepped out first. He wore a simple dark blue suit with a light blue tie. His smile was warm as he waved to the people. He looked every bit the future king, tall and confident. William turned back to the car and held out his hand. Kate took it and stepped out next. She wore a pretty light blue dress that matched William's tie. Her long hair was perfect, and she smiled widely at the crowd. The people cheered louder when they saw her. Together, William and Kate turned back to the car. Prince George came out next. At 10 years old, he looked very much like his father. He wore a small suit and tie. His face was serious as he waved to the people. He was old enough now to understand his place as a future king. Princess Charlotte followed her brother. 8 years old and full of life, she gave a small wave and then a perfect little curtsy that made the crowd say, "Aw." She wore a dress that matched her mother's. Her long hair was held back with a blue headband. Last came 5-year-old Prince Louis. He jumped out of the car with both feet, almost falling over. William quickly caught his arm. Louis didn't seem to care. He grinned and waved with both hands over his head. The crowd laughed, and even serious George smiled at his little brother's silliness. The family stood together for a moment. They made a perfect picture. William put his hand on George's shoulder. Kate held Louis's hand tightly, knowing how quickly he could run off. Charlotte stood between her brothers, looking proud to be there. Cameras flashed from every direction. The family was used to this. They smiled and waved, turning slowly so everyone could see them. Louis got bored quickly and tried to pull away from his mother's hand. Kate bent down and said something to him. He nodded and stood still again, but his feet kept moving in place. William leaned over and said something to Kate. She laughed, and the sound made the crowd smile. They looked happy together, not just doing their royal duty but enjoying each other's company. The hospital director came out to greet them. He shook William's hand first, then Kate's. He bent down to shake hands with each of the children. George gave a firm handshake, just like his father had taught him. Charlotte gave another small curtsy. Louis high-fived the man instead of shaking his hand, making everyone laugh again. The family turned to walk into the hospital. William and Kate each held one of Louis's hands now, swinging him between them as they walked. George and Charlotte followed close behind. They looked like any happy family going for a walk, except for the crowd of people watching their every move and the security team all around them. As they reached the doors of the hospital, they turned for one more wave to the crowd. The 5 of them, standing together, showed a strong family bond that everyone could see. They weren't just royal figures. They were a real family who clearly loved each other very much. Inside the hospital, bright colors covered the walls. Pictures of animals and stars made the place feel happy, not scary. The royal family walked down the main hall. Staff members lined up to meet them. Everyone wanted to see the prince and princess and their 3 children. "Welcome to Hope Children's Hospital," said Dr. Smith, the head doctor. We are so happy you could all come today. William shook her hand. We wouldn't miss it. The work you do here is very important. Kate nodded. Yes, helping sick children get better is close to our hearts. The children looked around with big eyes. This was not a regular trip for them. George stood tall next to his father. He tried to copy how William acted. Charlotte held her mother's hand and smiled at everyone she saw. Louis kept pointing at the pictures on the walls. Look, a tiger, Louis shouted, pulling on William's hand. William smiled and bent down. Yes, that's a tiger. But remember, we use quiet voices in hospitals. Louis put his finger to his lips. Like this? He whispered very loudly. Everyone around them laughed softly. Dr. Smith led them to a big room where children sat in beds or wheelchairs. These were patients who were well enough to meet the royal visitors. Some children had no hair because of their treatments. Others had tubes or machines hooked up to them. But when the royal family walked in, all the children smiled. Kate went to a little girl who held a doll. What's your doll's name? She asked, sitting down next to the bed. She's Princess Emily, the girl said shyly. I made her a crown. Kate looked at the paper crown on the doll. It's beautiful. You did a wonderful job. William talked to a boy who sat in a wheelchair. The boy told William about a video game he liked to play. William listened and asked questions, as if the boy's words were the most important thing in the world. George seemed shy at first. He stood back until he saw a boy about his age reading a book about space. George walked over slowly. I like space too, he said quietly. The boy looked up. Really? What's your favorite planet? Mars, George said. Soon the two boys were talking about rockets and stars. Charlotte found a table where some children were making paper flowers. She sat down and started helping a small girl who was having trouble folding the paper. Charlotte showed her how to do it step by step, just like her teachers had shown her. Louis was the biggest hit with the children. He didn't feel shy at all. He ran from bed to bed, showing children his toy car he had brought in his pocket. He made car noises that made everyone laugh. Kate kept a watchful eye on him, but let him play. One little boy couldn't get out of bed. Louis saw that the boy looked sad. Without anyone telling him to, Louis walked over and put his toy car on the boy's blanket. You can have it, Louis said. It goes really fast. The boy's face lit up. Really? I can keep it. Louis nodded. It's yours now. Kate saw what Louis did. She looked at William, and they shared a special smile. They were proud of their son's kind heart. The hospital staff watched as the royal family spent time with each child. They didn't rush. They didn't just shake hands and leave. They sat down. They listened. They laughed at jokes. They looked at drawings. They were not acting like royals who had to be there. They acted like they wanted to be there. A nurse whispered to Dr. Smith, "They are so normal, so kind." Dr. Smith nodded. Yes, I think that's why people love them so much. They may be royal, but they are real people too. After an hour with the children, it was time to move to the next part of their visit. Dr. Smith would show them the new wing of the hospital that they were there to open. As they walked out, the children called, "Goodbye," and "Come back soon." Louis turned and waved with both hands. "I'll come tomorrow," he called out. William laughed and picked Louis up. "Maybe not tomorrow, but we will visit again." Kate touched William's arm gently. The look they shared showed their love for each other and for the work they were doing. They were teaching their children what it meant to serve others, even while being royal. Dr. Smith led the royal family to the new wing of the hospital. This part was brand new, with shiny floors and fresh paint on the walls. A big red ribbon stretched across the hallway entrance. A man held a large pair of scissors on a small pillow. "This is our new play therapy center," Dr. Smith explained. "Children who are very sick need places to play and feel normal. This center will help them heal in body and mind." William nodded. "This is wonderful. Play is so important for children." Kate bent down to talk to her 3 children. This is why we came today. To open this special place for sick children to play and get better. George looked serious. Will they have books about space here? Dr. Smith smiled. Yes, Prince George. We have many books about space and stars. Charlotte tugged on her mother's dress. What about art? Can the children make things? Yes, Princess Charlotte. We have a big art room with paints and clay and all sorts of things to make beautiful art, Dr. Smith said. Louis jumped up and down. And cars? And trains? Dr. Smith laughed. Yes, Prince Louis. Lots of cars and trains and blocks to build with. A small crowd had gathered for the ribbon cutting. Hospital workers, some patients in wheelchairs, and important people from the city stood watching. Cameras flashed as William stepped forward to speak. My family and I are very happy to be here today, William said in a clear, strong voice. This new play center will bring joy to children who are going through hard times. When a child is sick, they still need to play and laugh. This place will help them do that. Kate stood beside him, smiling proudly. The 3 children waited quietly, though Louis kept fidgeting with his shirt buttons. Now, William said, I think my children would like to help cut the ribbon. This was not planned. The hospital staff looked surprised but happy. The man with the scissors quickly came forward. William lifted Louis up so he could reach the ribbon. George and Charlotte stood on either side. Kate held the scissors with them, making sure they were safe. Together, the royal family cut the red ribbon. Everyone clapped and cheered. Cameras flashed even more. Louis clapped too, copying the crowd. After the ribbon was cut, they went inside the new play center. It was amazing. One room had a small slide and soft blocks. Another had tables for art. A quiet room had books and beanbag chairs. There was even a room that looked like a kitchen where children could pretend to cook. The royal children's eyes grew wide. Even though they had many toys at home, this place was special. Can we play too? Charlotte asked her mother. Kate looked at Dr. Smith, who nodded. Yes, but just for a little while, Kate said. This is a work visit, remember. The 3 children ran off to explore. George found the science area with its small microscope. Charlotte went straight to the art tables. Louis climbed onto the slide, going down again and again. William and Kate watched their children play. They held hands, not caring who saw them. This was a real moment of family happiness. They are so good with the public, one nurse said to another. But look how they are with each other. That's real love. A small girl in a wheelchair rolled up to where Louis was playing. She looked sad because she couldn't go on the slide. Louis stopped sliding and looked at her. Then he grabbed a pile of soft blocks and brought them to her. We can build a castle, he said to the girl. That's more fun anyway. Kate saw this and touched William's arm. Look, she whispered. William smiled. He has a good heart. They all do. A photographer caught the moment. Louis playing with the girl in the wheelchair, and William and Kate watching their son with proud smiles. It would be in all the papers the next day. Dr. Smith came over to the royal couple. We have the tour of the medical equipment next, Your Highnesses. William nodded. Of course. He turned to Kate. Should we get the children? Kate looked at her 3 happy children, playing like normal kids. Let's give them 5 more minutes. This is good for them too. William smiled at his wife. In that moment, they weren't a prince and princess. They were just parents, watching their children play, feeling the same joy that all parents feel. After the children's playtime ended, a helper came to stay with George, Charlotte, and Louis. The children would not join their parents for the next part of the visit. This part would be boring for children. It was about medical machines and hospital money matters. Be good, Kate told her children, giving each one a quick hug. Listen to Ms. Jenkins, William added. We will be back soon. The children nodded. They were used to their parents having to do grown-up royal work. Ms. Jenkins was nice, and carried a bag of small games and books to keep them busy. William and Kate followed Dr. Smith down a long hallway. They looked like a team. They walked close together. Sometimes their hands touched as they walked. They often looked at each other and smiled. It was clear they liked being together, even at work. In the medical wing, doctors showed them big machines that helped sick children. One machine could see inside the body. Another machine helped children who could not breathe well. This scanner is the newest model, a doctor explained. It works faster than old ones. This means children don't have to lie still for so long. William asked good questions. How many children can use this each day? Kate touched the bed where children would lie. Is it comfortable? Children get scared easily. The doctors were surprised by their questions. Most visitors just nodded and moved on. But William and Kate really cared. They wanted to know how things worked and how they helped real children. You know a lot about hospitals, one doctor said to Kate. Kate smiled. I visit many hospitals, and I have 3 children. I've spent time in waiting rooms like all parents. This made the doctors smile. Even though Kate was a princess, she was also a normal mother who worried about her children. Next came a boring meeting about money. Important people sat around a table. They talked about how much the new wing cost and who gave money to build it. William and Kate listened carefully. They asked smart questions. They thanked everyone who helped build the hospital wing. During the meeting, Kate noticed a young woman who sat quietly in a corner. The woman took notes but didn't speak. When there was a break for tea, Kate walked over to the young woman. "Hello, I'm Kate," she said, as if the woman might not know who she was. The young woman looked surprised. "I'm Emma. I'm just an assistant." "No one is just anything," Kate said kindly. "What do you do here?" Emma explained that she was a student learning about hospital management. She hoped to run a children's hospital someday. Kate listened with real interest. She asked Emma about her studies and her dreams. William came over and joined them. Soon Emma was telling them both about her ideas for making hospitals better for children. Other people in the room watched. They were surprised to see the royal couple spending so much time with a student when there were many important people in the room. "That's why people love them," one man whispered to another. "They care about regular people, not just the rich and powerful." After tea, the meeting continued, but something had changed. Dr. Smith asked Emma to share some of her ideas. The important people listened to her. Kate gave Emma an encouraging smile. When the meeting ended, William and Kate shook hands with everyone. They remembered people's names. They thanked each person for their work. As they were leaving the room, William turned to Dr. Smith. "That young woman, Emma, she has good ideas. You should listen to her more." Dr. Smith nodded. "I will. Thank you for noticing her." In the hallway, a helper came running up. "Your Highnesses," she said, looking worried. "There's a small problem with Prince Louis." William and Kate looked at each other. They were not just royal visitors now. They were parents whose child might be in trouble. "What happened?" Kate asked, already walking quickly down the hall. "He wanted to see where you went," the helper explained. "He slipped away from Miss Jenkins. We found him trying to open doors to look for you." William tried not to smile. "That sounds like Louis." They hurried back to their children, leaving the world of adult royal duties behind. In that moment, they were just parents again, eager to get back to their children. William and Kate hurried down the hallway, following the worried helper. They were not angry. They were used to Louis and his curious ways. But they were concerned about what trouble he might have found. They turned a corner and saw a small crowd of hospital workers. In the middle stood Miss Jenkins, looking upset. Next to her were George and Charlotte. Louis was nowhere to be seen. "Where is he?" Kate asked, her voice calm but her eyes worried. Just then, they heard a child's laugh from inside a nearby room. William opened the door. There was Louis, sitting on the floor with an old man in a wheelchair. They were playing with toy cars, making engine noises and crashing the cars together. Vroom! Crash! Louis shouted, not even noticing his parents. The old man looked up, and his eyes grew wide when he saw the prince and princess. "Oh my! Your Highnesses, I'm sorry. This little fellow came in and asked if I wanted to play. I didn't know he had run away." William smiled. "It's not your fault. Louis has a mind of his own." Kate went over and knelt beside Louis. "We were worried about you. You know you shouldn't run away from Miss Jenkins." Louis looked down at his shoes. "Sorry, Mummy, but I was bored. And Mr. Jack was lonely. He told me so." The old man nodded. "I did say I was lonely. No one has visited me today." Then this little prince came bouncing in like a ray of sunshine. Kate looked at the old man's bedside table. There were no cards or flowers, no signs that anyone had come to see him. "What's wrong with your leg, Mr. Jack?" William asked, coming closer. "Broke it in 2 places," the old man said. "At my age, that's a big problem. I'll be here a while." Louis patted Mr. Jack's hand. "I told him we could play until his leg felt better." Kate and William shared a look. Even when Louis was naughty, his heart was in the right place. George and Charlotte peeked into the room, curious about what their brother had done this time. "Can we come in too?" Charlotte asked. Kate nodded. Soon, all 3 children were showing Mr. Jack their best car racing moves. The old man laughed more than he had in weeks. A nurse came to the door. She looked shocked to find the entire royal family in the room. "I'm so sorry. This isn't on the schedule. Mr. Jack isn't supposed to have visitors right now. He needs his medicine and rest." William stood up. "We understand. Hospital rules are important." The children looked sad. Louis gave Mr. Jack one last car. "You can keep this one too," he said. Mr. Jack's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you, young prince. This has been the best day of my stay here." As they left the room, Kate spoke quietly to the nurse. "Does Mr. Jack have family who visit him?" The nurse shook her head. "No, Your Highness. His wife died last year. His children live far away." Kate thought for a moment. "Please give him these," she said, taking the flowers from a vase in the hallway. "And could someone make sure he gets visitors from the hospital volunteers?" The nurse nodded, touched by Kate's kindness. Back in the hallway, William put his hand on Louis's shoulder. "You were right to be kind to Mr. Jack. But next time, ask before you run off, okay?" Louis nodded. "Okay, Daddy." George looked at his little brother with new respect. "How did you know Mr. Jack was lonely?" Louis shrugged. His eyes looked sad, like how you look when no one will play space games with you. Charlotte giggled, but George didn't mind. He was proud of his brother for noticing someone who needed help. As they walked down the hall, a news photographer took a picture. It showed William with his hand on Louis's shoulder, Kate holding Charlotte's hand, and George walking tall beside his father. They looked like a real family having a real moment. Dr. Smith met them at the end of the hallway. "I hope everything is all right." Kate smiled. "Yes, just a small adventure." Louis made a new friend. William checked his watch. "I believe it's time for the garden dedication next." Dr. Smith nodded. "Yes, and then lunch with the hospital board." The children groaned at the sound of more boring grown-up events. William laughed and messed up Louis's hair. "Don't worry," he said. "The garden has a fountain. And I heard there might be ice cream at lunch." The children's faces lit up. Even royal children got excited about simple things like fountains and ice cream. It was another reminder that under their titles and fancy clothes, they were just a normal family. The royal family followed Dr. Smith to the back of the hospital. There, a beautiful garden waited for them. It had flowers of all colors. Paths wound between the plants. Benches sat in quiet spots. In the middle was a round fountain where water danced and splashed. "This healing garden is for patients and families," Dr. Smith explained. "Being outside in nature helps people feel better." William nodded. Nature is very healing. This is a wonderful idea. Kate looked around with bright eyes. The children will love sitting out here with their families. It's so peaceful. A small crowd waited for them. These were the people who gave money to build the garden. There were also gardeners who planted the flowers and built the paths. The royal children were tired of standing still and listening to grown-ups talk. Louis kept looking at the fountain. Water splashed up and then fell down in a pretty pattern. His feet moved a little closer to it with each passing minute. Charlotte noticed a butterfly garden. Many colorful butterflies flew from flower to flower. She watched them with wide eyes. George found a space display in one corner of the garden. It had the planets arranged in order from the sun. He went over to check if they got the order right. William stepped up to a small stage. He was going to make another speech. Kate stood beside him. Ms. Jenkins tried to gather the children, but they were spread out across the garden now. "This beautiful garden will bring peace and healing to many families," William began. "When a child is sick, everyone in the family feels stress and worry. This garden gives them a place to find calm in the storm." As William spoke, something funny happened. Louis had reached the fountain. He stuck his hand in the cool water. It felt so nice on the warm day. He stuck his other hand in too. Just as William was thanking the garden designers, there was a big splash. Everyone turned to look. Louis had climbed up on the fountain edge and fallen in. He sat in the shallow water, his nice clothes all wet. For a moment, no one moved. Then Louis started to laugh. His laugh was so happy and free that other people started to laugh too. Kate hurried over to him. She didn't look angry. She was trying not to laugh as she helped him out of the water. William stopped his speech. "Well," he said with a smile, "I think my son has just given his own special opening to the fountain." Everyone laughed again. The serious ceremony became a happy moment. Charlotte came running with a small towel she had found. George brought his suit jacket to wrap around his wet brother. "Are you okay, Louis?" George asked, showing care for his little brother. Louis nodded, still giggling. "The water feels nice. You should try it." "No, Louis," Charlotte said in a big sister voice. "We can't all get wet. Mummy would not be happy." Kate wrapped Louis in the towel. "It's all right. Accidents happen." She looked at the crowd. "I'm sorry for the interruption." But the people were not upset. They were smiling. The royal family seemed so normal in that moment. Any family with young children would have days like this. A kind woman stepped forward. "I have a son just like yours, Your Highness. Last week, he fell into our fish pond trying to catch a frog." This made Kate feel better. She squeezed the woman's hand in thanks. William finished his speech quickly. "As you can see, my son Louis has already tested the fountain and found it very refreshing." After the speech, William came over to his wet son. He picked Louis up, not caring that his own suit got wet too. "You do know how to make an event memorable," he said, kissing Louis on the head. Dr. Smith brought a hospital t-shirt for Louis to wear. It was much too big, but it was dry. Louis looked funny in the big shirt with his wet hair sticking up, but he didn't mind. He was having an adventure. As they walked to the lunch area, people took pictures. Tomorrow's newspapers would not show perfect royal children standing still. They would show a real family with a dripping wet little boy in an oversized t-shirt. They would show parents who knew how to laugh when things went wrong. And the people would love them even more for it. Lunch was held in a big room with glass walls. It looked out over the hospital gardens. Long tables were set with white cloths and flowers. Important people sat waiting for the royal family to arrive. When the family walked in, everyone stood up. They tried not to stare at Louis in his huge hospital t-shirt with his hair still damp. William and Kate acted as if nothing unusual had happened. They smiled and greeted people warmly. "Please, sit down," William said to the guests. Everyone sat. The children had their own small table near their parents. Ms. Jenkins sat with them to help with their food and to make sure they behaved well. Louis was already looking at the dessert table across the room. He could see ice cream just as his father had promised. Kate and William sat at the main table with Dr. Smith and other important hospital people. They talked about the hospital's plans for the future. They asked good questions and listened carefully to the answers. Even while talking to others, Kate kept an eye on her children. When Charlotte dropped her napkin, Kate gave her a gentle look. Charlotte picked it up right away. When George sat very straight and used perfect manners, Kate gave him a proud smile. Louis was being good too, which surprised everyone after his fountain adventure. He ate his lunch and did not spill anything on his borrowed shirt. He seemed to know he had caused enough excitement for one day. A woman sitting near William asked, "How do you balance being royal with being parents? It must be hard." William thought for a moment. "We try to give our children as normal a life as possible. Yes, they will have royal duties when they grow up. But right now, they need to just be children." Kate added, "All parents want the same things for their children. We want them to be kind, to be happy, and to find what they love to do in life." The people at the table nodded. The prince and princess sounded just like regular parents. After the main lunch, it was time for dessert. The children were allowed to come to the dessert table to choose ice cream. George picked chocolate. Charlotte chose strawberry. Louis wanted both. "Just one, Louis," Kate said gently. Louis looked sad for a moment, then brightened. "Chocolate and strawberry come in one kind. It's called," he thought hard, "Neapolitan." William laughed. He's right, and very clever to remember that. So Louis got his two flavors after all, and he was very careful not to drop any on his borrowed shirt. While everyone ate dessert, a special surprise happened. A group of children from the hospital choir came in. They sang a beautiful song about hope and healing. Their voices filled the room. The royal children watched with big eyes. They had never seen children who were sick sing so beautifully. Some of the singers were in wheelchairs. Some had no hair because of their treatments. But they all smiled as they sang. When the song ended, everyone clapped loudly. George, Charlotte, and Louis clapped the hardest. Louis even stood on his chair to clap, until Kate gave him a look that made him sit down again. William went to thank each child in the choir. He shook their hands and spoke to each one. Kate followed, giving each child a warm smile and kind words. The royal children wanted to meet the choir too. They went with their parents and said hello to each singer. Charlotte told one girl she had a beautiful voice. George asked a boy how long he had been singing. Louis gave high fives to everyone. One small girl in the choir was very shy. She looked down when the royal family came near. Louis noticed. He went right up to her and said in a loud whisper, "I fell in the fountain and got all wet." The shy girl looked up in surprise. Then she giggled. Louis grinned, happy to have made her smile. Kate watched her youngest son with pride. He might be mischievous, but he knew how to make people happy. All three of her children were learning the most important royal duty of all, to care about other people. As lunch ended, Dr. Smith came over. "We have one more stop on our tour," she said. "The children's art display. The patients have made special pictures for your visit." The royal family followed her out. William held Louis's hand tightly, not wanting any more surprising adventures. Kate walked between George and Charlotte, a hand on each child's shoulder. They looked happy and relaxed, despite the long day. People watched them go, noticing how they stayed close together. The family had a special bond that everyone could see. The art display was in a bright, sunny room. Children's artwork covered the walls. Paintings, drawings, and clay figures filled the space with color and joy. Each piece had a small card next to it with the child artist's name and age. "The children have been working on these for weeks," Dr. Smith said. They were so excited to know the royal family would see their art. Kate's eyes lit up. She loved children's art. "These are wonderful. So much talent and heart in this room." William nodded. "I'm impressed. These young artists are very skilled. The royal children spread out to look at the artwork. George studied each piece carefully, reading the cards to learn about each artist. Charlotte was drawn to the colorful paintings of flowers and animals. Louis ran from piece to piece, pointing at the ones he liked best. "Look at this dragon," Louis shouted, pointing to a red and gold creature made of clay. A small boy in a wheelchair rolled into the room. He had a bandage around his head and looked tired, but his eyes were bright. "That's my dragon," the boy said shyly. "I made him with one hand because my other arm is broken." Louis's mouth fell open. "You made that with one hand? That's amazing." The boy smiled, looking proud. "His name is Sparky. He breathes fire, but only to cook marshmallows, not to hurt people." Louis laughed. "I like that. A helpful dragon." Soon more children came into the room. These were the artists who made the artwork. Some walked slowly with helpers. Others came in wheelchairs or with crutches. All of them looked excited to see the royal family. William and Kate made sure to talk to each child about their artwork. They asked questions and listened to the stories behind each piece. They didn't rush. They gave each child their full attention. George found a detailed drawing of a spaceship. "This is very good," he told the girl who drew it. "You got all the parts right." The girl beamed. "I want to be an astronaut someday." George nodded seriously. "You could be. This shows you understand how spaceships work." Charlotte spent a long time with a boy who had painted a garden full of butterflies. "The colors are so pretty," she said. "I saw butterflies like these in the hospital garden." The boy smiled. "I painted this from memory. I haven't been outside in 2 weeks." Charlotte's face showed she understood how hard that must be. "Well, you remembered the butterflies perfectly." Louis went from child to child, making friends easily. He told everyone about falling in the fountain. The children laughed and shared their own funny stories. Soon Louis had a small group following him around the room. One girl stood alone by her painting. She looked sad. Her painting showed a family holding hands. Kate noticed her and went over. "This is beautiful," Kate said gently. "Is this your family?" The girl nodded. "My mom and dad and little brother, but they had to go back home today. They live far away and can't stay at the hospital all the time." Kate sat down next to the girl. "You must miss them very much." The girl's eyes filled with tears. "I do." Kate took the girl's hand. "When I miss someone, I keep them in my heart. I think about the happy times we had and the happy times we will have again." The girl looked up at Kate. "Do you miss people too?" Kate nodded. "Everyone does, even princesses." William watched Kate with the sad girl. His eyes were full of love for his wife. He knew how much she cared about children and how good she was at comforting them. A hospital helper took a photo of the moment. It showed Kate holding the girl's hand, their heads bent close together in quiet talk. It was not a posed royal picture. It was a real moment of human connection. Meanwhile, George and Charlotte had joined Louis and his new friends. The royal children and the hospital children looked at art together, laughed together, and talked together. No one seemed to care that some were royal and some were not. They were just children enjoying each other's company. Dr. Smith stood beside William. "This is what healing looks like," she said quietly. "Your family has brought so much joy today." William watched his wife and children with pride. "We're honored to be here. These brave children and their families are the real heroes." As the art tour came to an end, no one wanted to leave. The children had formed new friendships. The room was filled with happy voices and laughter. The royal family had touched many hearts, and many hearts had touched theirs in return. It was time for the royal family to leave the hospital. They had been there for almost 4 hours. The children were getting tired. Even Louis had slowed down a little. But there was one more thing to do before they left. In the main entrance hall, all the hospital workers had gathered. Doctors, nurses, cleaners, cooks, and office staff stood in rows. They wanted to say goodbye to the royal visitors who had brought so much joy to their hospital. Dr. Smith led the family to a small stage. "Would you like to say a few words before you go?" she asked William. William nodded. He stepped up to the microphone with Kate beside him. The three children stood in front of their parents. Louis was still wearing his oversized hospital t-shirt. His own clothes were in a plastic bag that Ms. Jenkins carried. "Thank you all for welcoming our family today," William said. "The work you do here is so important. You save lives, you heal bodies, and you care for hearts and minds too." Kate stepped forward. "We have seen so much love in this hospital today, from the doctors and nurses to the children and their families. Everyone here is making the world better." The hospital staff clapped. Some had tears in their eyes. It meant a lot to have their hard work noticed. "And now," William said with a smile, "my son George would like to say something." This was not planned. George looked surprised, but he was a brave boy. He stepped up to the microphone. It was too high, so William lowered it for him. "Thank you for showing us your hospital," George said in a clear voice. "I learned a lot today. Maybe some of the children here will grow up to be doctors or astronauts or kings or queens. You can be anything if you work hard." The crowd clapped. George stepped back, looking pleased with himself. Charlotte tugged on her father's sleeve. William bent down, and she whispered in his ear. He smiled and nodded. Charlotte stepped up to the microphone. "Thank you for the lovely art and music," she said sweetly. "You made beautiful things even when you were sick. That is very brave." More clapping. Charlotte gave a small curtsy before stepping back. Louis was jumping up and down now. My turn, he said loudly enough for everyone to hear. The crowd laughed. William lifted Louis up so he could reach the microphone. "I like the fountain best," Louis announced, "and Mr. Jack, and the dragon, and the ice cream." Everyone laughed again. Louis had said what all children were thinking. The serious parts were fine, but the fun parts were best. William put Louis down and spoke one last time. "Thank you again. We will never forget today." As they stepped down, Dr. Smith presented Kate with a large envelope. "The children made a book of their stories for you to take home," she explained. Kate's eyes filled with tears. "That is the most precious gift. We will read it together as a family." It was time to go. Security guards led the way to the front doors. The hospital staff made a path for them, clapping as they walked by. Outside, even more people waited. The crowd had grown during the day as news spread that the royal family was at the hospital. People held their phones up to take pictures. Some had small children on their shoulders so they could see better. The royal family paused at the top of the steps. The car waited below, but they took a moment to wave to the people who had waited so long to see them. William stood tall and proud. Kate was graceful beside him. George waved politely. Charlotte gave another perfect curtsy, and Louis waved with both hands over his head, jumping a little with excitement. Then William did something not on the royal schedule. He put his arm around Kate's waist and pulled her close. She smiled up at him. It was a real moment between husband and wife, not just prince and princess. The crowd cheered louder. People loved seeing that their future king and queen truly cared for each other. The family went down the steps together. William and Kate held hands with Louis between them. George and Charlotte followed close behind. They looked like any happy family heading home after a long day. The car door closed. The royal visit was over. But the memory of this day would stay with everyone who saw it. They had seen not just royal duty but family love. They had seen the human side of their future king and queen. And they had seen 3 children growing up to follow in their parents' caring footsteps. The true strength of the royal family was not in their titles or their history. It was in the bond they shared with each other and the kindness they showed to everyone they met. As they got into the car, Louis turned for one more big wave. People would remember that wave and his big smile in the too large hospital t-shirt. They would remember Kate's gentle talks with sad children. They would remember William's proud eyes watching his family. They would remember George's serious questions and Charlotte's kind words.